Hi everybody, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF2. Today we're going to be covering the Swarmkeeper because there's been a lot of bug lover requests. So the Swarmkeeper from HOWL of the Wild. This is an archetype, obviously. Here's the intro. Many civilizations throughout history have benefited from a symbiotic relationship with insects, like Americans and honey. A community might raise insects for certain byproducts, such as a bee's honey or a spider's silk, or tame larger versions of common species as mounts. I'm picturing riding a giant bee. That seems awkward. Or tame... yeah. Some even take this harmony to the extreme and willingly host a swarm of insects inside their bodies. Yeah, of course you would. Why wouldn't you do that? Because I like itching from the inside. Because of their unusual arrangement, Swarmkeepers tend to live solitary lives, or at least as solitary as you can be, as a host of thousands. When dealing with those who might be squeamish of their abilities, some Swarmkeepers wear straw skeps, backpack-like boxes, often employed by beekeepers as a kind of social camouflage. Such items might even be used to house additional insects if their swarm grows too big to fit inside their body. Wow. This is a nasty archetype. Swarmkeepers can add new capabilities to their swarms. For some, this means incorporating many different species of insects into their swarm, making even mortal enemies in nature work together. Others selectively cultivate one kind of insect precious to them into various morphs that give the swarm new capabilities. I love that idea, and it totally sounds like horror movie style. Like, these cockroaches are now capable of thinking, and they work with, I don't know, earthworms. Now the feats. Swarmkeeper dedication. Feat level 2. Uncommon prerequisites trained in nature. Your body's become a symbiotic hive for a swarm of crawling insects. You can emit your swarm using the swarm fourth action. And you can use the bite and sting action while your swarm is outside your body to command it to attack. Your deep connection to your swarm precludes you from also having an animal companion, though if an ability allows you to have more than one animal companion, such as the Beastmaster Archetype, which is also expanded in this book to include another 13 feats, you can count your swarm as one of the companions. You're immune to any damage from your swarm, and during your daily preparations, you can anoint up to 5 willing creatures with a concoction made from your pheromones to grant them immunity as well. Pause for just a sec. Later, there's an ability that would hinder you if you're in your swarm's area, and it's not damage, so you're not immune to it, but I think you should be. So I think this part should say you're immune to any effects, negative effects from your swarm, not just damage. While outside your body, your swarm is large and has a speed of 15 feet and a climb speed of 15 feet. It can occupy the same space as other creatures. While outside your body, the swarm can be attacked. It uses your statistics for defenses, but is immune to grappled, prone, restrained, and mental effects that target only a specific number of creatures. The swarm has resistance equal to your level to physical damage and weakness equal to your level to area and splash damage. Any damage that would be dealt to the swarm is dealt to you instead, though you take damage only once from any ability that includes both you and the swarm in the area of effect, though you take the greater amount of damage. So this could make you very vulnerable to AoE damage, even Alchemist Fire. Yeah, it's something to be aware of, something to watch out for. Now here's the Swarm fourth ability. It's 2 actions. It has the Concentrate trait. Requirements: your swarm is within your body. Effect: your swarm boils forth from your body into a space adjacent to yours. This is so nasty. Its space can overlap yours because it's large. It remains separate from you until the end of your next turn, but you can sustain the effect up to 1 minute. The effect also ends if you end your turn more than 60 feet away from the swarm. When you use Swarm Fourth and each time you sustain the effect, you can have the swarm stride. When Swarm Fourth ends, the swarm disperses into individual creatures. While dispersed, it can no longer be used for actions or be targeted, and the insects return to you and nest in your body again. This typically takes 1 minute, unless you're extremely far away, as determined by the GM. You guys better be grateful that I love you, because bugs are one of the very few things that bother me. Not all bugs, just cockroaches. And so, of course, I'm picturing that every time. Ugh. Like, Candyman is a good movie, and he's infested with a swarm of bees. And it's a fun idea. There's a creepy psycho goblin on your screen right now that also looks like it's infested with bees or wasps. Ew. Anyway, here's another ability. Bite and Sting. 1 action. Requirements: your swarm is outside your body. Effect: each creature in your swarm's space, which remember is large, Takes 1d4 piercing damage with a basic reflex save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. At 4th level and every 2 levels thereafter, the damage increases by 1d4. Now, this is not an attack. It's not anything that can be enhanced with magical items. It's basically a spell. It lasts for a minute, which is most fights, yeah. But because it requires sustaining, and it is 2 actions to use, just like a spell, and then you have to sustain it every round, and it has all these abilities based on it. This archetype is not for a caster, because it takes so many actions to do. Unless you're a witch, because you have cackle. Or if you archetype into witch. Sorry, witches are just great. So everything I've said so far is 2nd level. That's a lot of shit you get at 2nd level. Granted, like, none of it's defensive or passive, but you get essentially a reusable AoE damage effect or spell. That's pretty neat and pretty powerful. Now the other feats, the utility feats. Level 4 feat, Aphit Flash. 1 action, flourish. All of these require Swarmkeeper dedication, so I'm only going to read the prerequisites if there's an additional prerequisite. Frequency, once per round. Requirements, your swarm is outside your body. Your swarm can emit a bright flash, much like aphid beetles, a genus of flash beetles once used by Osirian miners as sources of light. Each creature in its space must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher, or be dazzled for 1 round, 2 rounds on a critical failure. The swarm then glows with light like a torch until it returns to your body. This is cool because it is a debilitating effect that you can do with just the archetype ability. No matter what class you are, you have this now debilitating, damaging AoE effect. It's very useful for that, but because it works with any class, it doesn't really get direct enhancements from any class. If you have ideas on how you could do that, let me know in the comments. Classes that specifically enhance this somehow. Feat 4, next feat, Pyre Ant Sting. 1 action, flourish. Requirements, your swarm is outside your body. Your swarm's stings burn with agonizing pain, much like that caused by the bright red pyre ants that make their tunnels within the parched sands of deserts like Qadira. Each creature in your swarm space must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher, take 1d6 persistent poison damage. A creature that critically fails is also enfeebled 1 for as long as it's taking this persistent poison damage. At 8th level and every 4 levels thereafter, the persistent poison damage increases by 1d6. I would like it if instead of poison, you could choose either piercing or poison damage when you take the feat. And that way you could also take it again for the other type of damage. But some adventures, some campaigns, there's just shit that's resistant or immune to poison all over the place. It's really common in certain campaigns. So I think that it'd be fine to just say you can take it for persistent piercing damage instead of poison damage if you'd like. And it increases as you gain in levels. A little slowly, but it's persistent damage, so it's still really cool. And it affects every creature in the large space of your swarm. That's pretty damn neat. Okay, level 4 feat. Next is Weaver's Web. 1 action, flourish. Requirements, your swarm is outside your body. Your swarm can spin dense webs, much like those left by stone gray weaver spiders under eaves and in derelict city buildings, especially along the coasts of Varisia. When your swarm ends its turn, it fills all surfaces in its space with sticky webs that last for 1 minute. The webs are difficult terrain. A creature that ends its turn in the webs must succeed at a reflex save or be immobilized until it escapes. The web save DC or escape DC are equal to the higher of your class DC or spell DC. The swarm is immune to its webs. It doesn't say you're immune to its webs. The area is difficult terrain, you're hampered by it. That's why I said in the earlier part, the dedication that says you're immune to the damage from your swarm, I think you should also be immune to that effect, the difficult terrain. Next feat, level 6, Distracting Bites. You know how to take advantage of those your swarm has attacked. A creature who has taken damage from your swarm's bite and sting is off guard against the first strike you make against it in the same turn. That's great. This archetype more and more seems to be shaping up to work well with melee classes. That's interesting. I mean, obviously, I could see, you know, a twin weapon ranger using this to their benefit. I like it. I like that it's basically a spell-based archetype because it's an AoE that you have to activate with 2 actions, much like a spell that lasts for a minute if you sustain it, much like a spell. But it works really well for melee classes. Mobile Swarm, next 6th level feat. The clicking of fast-moving legs accompanies your swarm in all kinds of environments. Your swarm's land and climb speeds increase to 20 feet, and the swarm gains a 20-foot swim speed. Nice, especially 6th level. You might be doing some aquatic stuff at that point. It's useful, and for me, I'd probably take it just like as a matter of course because I never know when it might be necessary. And just gaining the 5 feet of land speed movement could be worth a feat by itself. And then it has all these other little benefits. I mean, they're all movement benefits, but they're benefits. Next feat, level 8, carried with the swarm. This is obviously like it matches the 5e Swarmkeeper or Swarm Tender Ranger. When your swarm is sharing your space and strides, you can choose to have your swarm carry you with it. Which is very nice because you have to sustain the swarm to keep it active, and that sustain action now also functions as a stride for you. So archetypes or any ability that saves you actions is gold. You stay in the same basic position within its space while it moves and when you arrive at your new location, with your exact location determined by the GM if it's unclear. Because you're moving voluntarily, your movement isn't forced movement and therefore still triggers reactions based on movement. If your swarm flies, which is a later feat, and you don't have a fly speed, you fall at the end of this movement. By the time your swarm can fly, you'll probably have the ability to have flying magic items or spells. Next level 8 feat, Sportal Boar Choke. Flourish. Requirements, your swarm is outside your body. Like nefarious sportal boars, a species of insect that plague adventurers by hiding in their rations as counterfeit food. Ew. Your swarm can crawl down their throats. Because of course it can. The sportal boars attempt to force their way into the mouth of each creature in your swarm space. Each creature takes 4d4 piercing damage depending on its fortitude save against the higher of your class DC or spell DC. The damage increases by 1d4 10th level and every 2 levels thereafter, regardless of the result of its save. The creature is temporarily immune to sportal boar choke for 1 hour. And it has a variety of success degrees. Critical success, the creature is unaffected. Success, the creature takes half damage and is sickened 1 as it spits out most of the offending sportal boars. Ew! Failure, the sportal boars crawl down the creature's throat. The creature takes full damage and is sickened 1. I'd be sickened 10. Fuck that. Critical failure, as failure, but the creature takes double damage and is sickened 2. This is awesome. This is an additional AoE damage ability. Yes, it takes another action, but you're doing a lot of damage in an AoE at this point. This is cool. I still don't like that the type of damage it does is so limited. So I think that it would be fine to just change it by taking the feat again, or just choose a different one the first time you take the feat instead of piercing. Next feat, level 10, Veil of Bugs. Your swarm is dense, blotting out vision. You and your allies gain lesser cover when in your swarm space. That's just +1 to AC. It doesn't really matter that much. I would skip it. Level 12 feat, Buzzing Death Cicadas. Your swarm takes on characteristics of the death cicadas of the Mana Wastes, whose distinctive buzz is said to be a herald of imminent demise. The inclusion of these death cicadas grant your swarm a fly speed of 20 feet. You also gain the Death Drone action. Death Drone, 1 action, auditory, flourish, mental. The cicadas in your swarm make a droning sound that stimulates a fear response. Each creature within your swarm space takes 64 mental damage, 6d4 mental damage, and must attempt a will save against your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher. Critical success, the creature is unaffected. Success, the creature takes half damage. Failure, the creature takes full damage, is frightened 1, and takes a -2 circumstance penalty to perception checks that require hearing. Critical failure, the creature takes double damage, is frightened 2, and is deafened until the start of your next turn. So the Death Drone is an action. Sportal Boar Choke is an action. And Bite and Sting is an action. So I guess you actually can't do all of those in one turn because you still have to sustain it. But That's 3 different AoE damage abilities that you get with this. Yeah, they all stack. You'd have to have haste to activate all of them. But that's a lot of freaking AoE damage. Like every turn if you want, as long as you have the actions. Yeah, this could strip the flesh off of bones quickly. It's neat. Last feat. Level 14, Expanded Swarm. Your hive has grown to the point where it is difficult to keep your swarm contained within your body. When you release your swarm with Swarm Force, you can choose for it to be huge instead of large. That's a lot of squares of effectiveness. Alright, so obviously this is good for AoE damage, no matter what class you have. In fact, because it has so many abilities that take actions to deal area damage like a spell, really doesn't work great for spellcasters, again, unless you're a witch with cackle feet. Cackling feet. I don't like that it doesn't do anything else. Yeah, okay. It lets you move as well. It's not that amazing. Difficult terrain around the area. The slight protection for your allies. It's just not flexible enough. This is just, I am a living swarm and I murder everything around me as I walk. I mean, maybe I also cackle with glee or like spit fire ants out of my mouth. Like, there's a lot of flavor in this, and I love flavor. You know that about me. But I just wish there were more different things it could do that you could spend feats on. Still, for what it is, it's great. It works very well. This is a very good I am the swarm feel of archetype or class. Like other gaming systems have this as a class. This is an archetype. It really makes you feel like you are a walking swarm of insects murdering everything in your path. So for that, it's quite good. That is all for the Swarmkeeper archetype, and so that is all for today's video. These are new dragon scale dice bags that Storm has been making. This blue dragon scale dice bag is going to be our patron giveaway for the end of the month. So if you are already a patron, great, you could win this thing. No dice included, but these things are really freaking expensive by themselves. And it's huge with a big stable flat bottom. Works really well for dice or purse or whatever. I don't know. You can just hold your cupcakes in it. I would probably do that actually, put cookies in it for traveling. But that's me. I always have to have a snack. If you're not a patron yet and you want a chance to win this and future dice or help the channel, go to Patreon, links in the description. Hi. Yeah, I'm sorry. More Howl of the Wild videos to come. Thank you for joining me. Click this video or this video next. This one will be the Howl of the Wild playlist, so you can catch up on any of them that you've missed. And this one is going to be something else, probably a playlist of build videos, because story is what I do, and they're fun. Thank you. Toodaloo.